After 3 months to live, the Maid's amazing secret transformed a billionaire's son's life forever. Alex Carter stood in his opulent Silicon Valley mansion, staring out at the vast sea of twinkling lights stretching below him. The grandeur of his surroundings felt suffocating, an echo chamber of wealth and status that screamed success, but left him feeling painfully alone. He was the son of one of the tech industry's most powerful entrepreneurs, raised to believe that money could buy happiness. Yet, as he gazed down at the valley, a creeping emptiness clawed at his insides. He had everything, yet craved connection. When the doctor delivered the terminal diagnosis, Alex's world spiraled into chaos. 3 months to live. He felt detached, like a spectator at a show he wasn't meant to attend. It became difficult to breathe as the reality of his mortality pressed against his chest. With each passing day, he wrestled with despair. The luxuries that once defined him now felt like chains that bound him. Facing the grim prospect of his ending, a deep yearning within him stirred. Could he leave behind something worthwhile? That led him to hire Maria, a maid from a struggling neighborhood. Watching Maria step into his carefully curated world, dressed in simple clothes that screamed humility, filled him with conflicting emotions. Her surroundings were alien to her, but she approached the monumental task of cleaning with diligence and a kind smile. As she dusted the shelves and organized the chaos that became his life, Maria's laughter broke through the heavy silence of his mansion. She spoke of her family's trials, her words weaving stories of resilience, and with each tale, the fortress around his heart began to crack. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Days turned into an unfolding tapestry of connection as Alex absorbed the truths Maria offered. Hard work, loyalty, integrity, virtues he had never truly understood. However, each new discovery was shadowed by a growing tension. His father, a man who had built an empire on status and wealth, looked down on Maria at every turn. She's a distraction, his father would scoff, and once again Alex felt the chasm grow between his hidden desires and the expectations of his lineage. The battle within him gnawed at his soul. Was he to uphold his family's legacy or explore the raw, authentic roots Maria represented? Fear tightened its grip on his heart as he prepared for a tense dinner with his father. Would he summon the courage to voice the thoughts hammering away at him? Would he stand for the humanity that manifested through Maria, against the privileged facade his father revered? As they sat at the grand dining table, Alex felt the weight of the world closing in. Every bite felt like a betrayal, while every glance at his father sent jolts of anxiety coursing through him. His mind raced, blood pounding in his ears with each tick of the clock, the moment of truth hanging before him like a dagger ready to fall. Would he shatter the silence that suffocated his heart? Would he reveal the truth he had finally tasted? The glass walls of his mansion felt like a prison, enclosing him within this internal tempest, leaving him on the brink of revelation, yet paralyzed by fear. As the clink of silverware faded into nervous silence, Alex felt time slow to a crawl. The lavishness of the dining room, with its marble floors and ornate chandeliers, grew increasingly stifling. The fumes of his father's disdain filled the air, drowning out the faintest glimmers of courage flickering within him. "Alex, what's wrong? You're unusually quiet tonight," his father drawled, plucking a fine piece of steak with an air of superiority. There was an undeniable urgency surging through Alex, a desperate wish to express the turmoil raging inside him. He lifted his gaze, meeting his father's penetrating stare. "I've been thinking a lot," the words trembled on his tongue, unsteady yet yearning for liberation. "About what really matters." His father's brow furrowed, a slight frown curling at the corner of his lips. "And what might that be?" "Your role in this family, the legacy our name holds. Focus on what's before you, not the distractions outside these walls." Those words hammered against Alex's resolve, the familiar chill of disappointment creeping into his bones. Who was he if not defined by that legacy? But what was a legacy to him, a set of cold accolades, or a seeker of authenticity? This internal conflict bore down on him, a harsh reminder that while he could inherit wealth, he could not inherit character. Stretching his fingers across the table, he could still feel the ghost of Maria's laughter vibrating through the silence of the mansion, a living reminder of simplicity and joy that had seeped into his heart. It's not just about our family's image anymore. It's about who I want to become. I've been exploring parts of myself buried under expectations. His father's expression hardened, and Alex felt the air grow heavier. Was he ready for the implications of his revelation? What if the facade he had relied on crumbled beneath him? Do you truly believe I built this empire for you to squander it on sentimental nonsense? Came the mocking retort, cheeks flushed by indignation. Alex's heart raced, edging toward defiance. You built an empire on your vision. Alex steadied himself, his voice tempered by conviction. But it shouldn't come at the cost of genuine connection or authentic living. I want to make an impact, not just exist within your shadow. Silence enveloped them like a thick haze, the tension practically vibrating in the space between them. Was this enlightenment or madness? Each tick of the grandfather clock drilled into Alex's consciousness, warning him that the sanctuary of his previously sheltered life was crumbling. His father leaned back, a mixture of disbelief and fury written across his features. You think that is your calling? To abandon reason and chase after utopian ideals? You'll regret this, mark my words. Regret or realization. With each challenge hurled back, Alex felt fragments of a new identity take form, shaky yet resolute. The self-doubt that lingered was slowly being replaced by a burgeoning sense of possibility, a thirst for authenticity that the world outside his walls could not extinguish. In that one electrifying moment, he made a decision that reverberated through every fiber of his being. He would no longer live merely as a reflection of his father's ambitions. To follow the echoes of laughter Maria brought into his life, he needed to embrace the uncertainties of the path ahead. This resolution settled within him. One ghost of a question chased another, gnawing at the edges of newfound clarity. What awaited him beyond this confrontation? What irrevocable decisions would seal his fate? With one last glance into his father's stormy eyes, Alex felt a surge of courage propel him forward into the unknown. The calling of a different life awaited him, a life entwined with passion, connection, and perhaps something greater still. But before he could fully grasp the weight of his choices, the unease roiling behind his determination hinted at impending obstacles. The path ahead loomed with shadows. Would he truly have the strength to stand firm against the storms that would surely come? Determined to break free from the constraints of expectation, Alex stepped away from the dining room with a sense of urgency that pulsed through his veins. The lavish mansion, once an embodiment of privilege, now felt suffocating, its walls closing in as if to contain his burgeoning desire for something more authentic. Each step he took away from the heavy, ornate dining table echoed with both defiance and exhilaration. In the solitude of his room, he paced, grappling with the weight of his father's words swirling through his mind. The legacy inherited was nothing but a gilded cage, a relentless reminder of a life scripted by another. He questioned the values imparted on him during childhood. Were they truly his, or merely echoes of a man whose ambition overshadowed understanding? As he flicked through the memories of childhood triumphs, he wrestled with the inkling that despair and joy had both been part of the family narrative, twisted into a singular tale, serving only one. That he sank into the plush corner sofa, the sun's waning light casting dim patterns on the walls, reflecting his muddled thoughts. His relationship with Maria had ignited a flicker of hope. Her perspective had taught him that true fulfillment lay beyond inherited power. A gnawing uncertainty surfaced. Would her vision marry with his ambition, or were they destined to diverge as well? Returning to the world outside those gilded walls promised new adventures, but it also portended daunting challenges. Alex understood he needed to forge his own path, one that blended his aspirations with meaningful connections. But the first step toward this unfamiliar world was laced with fear and hesitation. What if the darkness of his father's disapproval loomed larger than he imagined? The following day, buoyed by his resolve, Alex sought out opportunities outside the cocoon of family influence. This involved reaching out to the very community his father deemed unworthy. It felt foreign and yet strangely liberating. He volunteered at a local shelter, a decision steeped in both guilt and ambition. Could he stand in contrast to his father's world, working alongside those he once deemed beneath him? At the shelter, the air was different, less suffocating, and more alive with a pulse of genuine human connection. Compassion flowed effortlessly among the volunteers, a stark juxtaposition to the cold, transactional exchanges of his previous life. As he served meals and shared stories, Alex discovered unseen strengths within himself, empathy that had long lay dormant, a gift of active listening he never realized he possessed. Then came the moments of revelation. Listening to the heartfelt stories of those around him allowed him to confront his own fears. Their struggles mirrored his internal battle against a legacy that felt foreign. Each story rekindled the laughter from those cherished memories with Maria, igniting the belief that perhaps there was a world where connection outweighed financial prowess. Yet as he immersed himself deeper into this new life, he still grappled with his father's looming presence. Would he truly have the courage to face that judgment head-on? Each encounter with those at the shelter brought a new layer of conviction to Alex, but it also unearthed a boiling point. He realized the more he tried to carve out his own identity, the more his father's disapproval threatened to drown out his progress. As he returned home after a full day of service, Alex felt the familiar ache of conflict. The echoes of laughter from moments shared with Maria were replaced with the dissonant chorus of his father's warnings. Even now, standing on the precipice of change, shadows danced around him, whispering doubts that threatened to creep back. And Alex's eyes fell upon the trophy case in the hallway, the very pieces that symbolized past victories. They felt more like shackles now. He was teetering on the edge, a threshold between two worlds, and the time had come for him to face the ultimate choice. Would he shatter the glass of lofty expectations, or would he allow fear and comfort to anchor him in place? With a newfound determination, he breathed deeply, readying himself to confront the dragons he had once fled. As unease settled within him, was it the desire for authenticity or simply fear of the unknown? He knew that the moment for confrontation was approaching. What would he uncover about himself once he dismantled the legacy that had long defined him? And perhaps more importantly, who would emerge from the ashes of that confrontation? The question hung in the air, heavy with anticipation, as he awaited the answers lurking just beyond the horizon. Alex woke early the next day, the sun casting ribbons of light through the sheer curtains in his room, illuminating the dust motes dancing lazily in the air. He felt restless, his body aching with anticipation and uncertainty. Today, the weight of his father's legacy would bear down on him again, but he vowed it wouldn't squash him like before. Instead, he would forge ahead. After breakfast, Alex decided to revisit the shelter. As the staff greeted him with warmth that felt foreign yet comforting, he realized this was where he longed to belong. The hustle and bustle of activity was invigorating. It reminded him that true success wasn't measured by accolades, but by the impact one had on the lives of others. As the day progressed, he found himself drawn to a woman in her 50s, sitting alone in a corner, tracing the lines on her weathered hands. Initially hesitant, he approached her and asked if she would like to chat. Her name was Evelyn, and as they spoke, he felt an odd sense of kinship. She shared her struggles, losses that echoed through her life like dark shadows. Alex opened up about his own plight, sparking an insightful exchange. In her, he found a mentor. Her years had gifted her wisdom, and amidst laughter and tears, he began to understand that her story held invaluable parallels to his own. As they talked, Alex noticed a small art piece on the wall, a combination of vibrant colors that seemed to burst with life. "I painted that," Evelyn admitted, a hint of pride accompanying her admission. "Used to think I had no talent, but creating became my escape." Her words rang in his mind, lighting a match in the darkness of his self-doubt. What if he too could create something beautiful, something that expressed his own journey? With Evelyn's encouragement, he picked up a paintbrush later that afternoon, tentatively sketching out thoughts on a thrift store canvas. What started off as thick strokes and dark colors began to morph into vivid depictions of his turmoil, deep blues for sorrow, fiery reds for anger, and soft yellows for hope. Each layer of paint became an extension of his hidden self, piecing together the mix of fear, joy, and newfound purpose. Yet, a gnawing worry overshadowed this burst of inspiration. What would it mean if he pursued this newfound passion, this artistic outlet? Would his father's sneers echo through his mind as they once did, a reminder of privilege judged by power? Every brushstroke unleashed a tempest within. He questioned if venturing into the art world would end up as another familial betrayal, another act of defiance against the carefully crafted life his father envisioned for him. As he returned home in the twilight, armed with the color-splattered canvas, Alex felt a blend of excitement and trepidation. Yes, he realized, he was still on the precipice, but perhaps now he could embrace the plunged in the silence of his room. He laid the painting on the floor, viewing it through different angles. The emotions swirling within him were raw, but they were also a necessary part of his journey. He felt liberated even in the uncertainty. That night, as he prepared to sleep, he glanced towards the trophy case one final time. But this time he didn't feel confined by its presence. Instead, he felt a sense of hope blossoming where despair once thrived. The confrontation he had been fearing, the chasm between his identity and his father's expectations, seemed to grow smaller as he equipped himself with talents yet to fully unfurl. And so the question lingered, digging deep into the recesses of his mind. Would he have the bravery to unveil his passions to the world, or would he stifle his emerging self back into the confines of his father's vision? The night's ambivalence wrapped around him, challenging him to make that choice, and soon, it was time to confront the truth he had begun to unveil. The next morning found Alex in a state of half-formed resolutions. Restless energy coursed through him like electricity, and the remnants of yesterday's optimism began to feel more like a burden than a beacon. As the sun broke through the blinds, illuminating the chaos in his mind, he grappled with the day ahead. He decided to return to the shelter, motivated by the deep connection he had felt with Evelyn. Her words had resonated with him, and he yearned to sink deeper into the creativity she had ignited. When he arrived, the atmosphere hummed with a mixture of laughter, chatter, and the sizzling sounds of the kitchen. There was music playing in the background, wrapping around him in a way that felt both familiar and new. After greeting the staff, Alex sought Evelyn. He found her in the art corner, brushes scattered like paintbrush soldiers around her. Sitting beside her, he placed his canvas on the table. "I painted this," he said, his voice trembling slightly. She glanced at it, her eyes sparkling like the colors laid before her. "This is beautiful," she breathed, tracing the edges of the canvas with her finger as if she could feel the emotions pulsing through the layers. "It's chaotic," Alex replied, nervousness creeping back. "Like me." Evelyn looked up, meeting his gaze with a seriousness that made his heart race. "Art is a reflection, Alex. Embrace the chaos. It's where the truth lies." Her wisdom echoed in his thoughts, and his lingering doubts began to fade. Inspired, Alex joined Evelyn on this creative journey. They spent hours discussing colors, techniques, and the stories that lingered behind each of their artworks. With each stroke of his brush, he felt more grounded, more connected to this new aspect of himself. He discovered surprising talents in blending hues and capturing emotion, and he began to feel the artistic liberation Evan spoke of. Yet, beneath the newfound excitement lay a lurking anxiety. What if this was just another fleeting escape? Would his father see this as a trivial pursuit? The shadows of familial expectation often loomed larger than he wished to admit. The divide between his visions for himself and those others had crafted for him swelled with every brushstroke. That evening, he sat on the floor of his room once more, this time gazing at a series of sketches he had created. Each image told a piece of his story, an embodiment of the internal battles he had fought. What tangled him more was the realization that expressing himself through art was not merely an act of rebellion. It was a path towards self-discovery, a path he had long avoided. His phone buzzed, startling him from his introspection. It was a message from Evelyn, inviting him to an art show at the gallery downtown. The words "local artists" rang in his ears, the promise of sharing his work with the world both thrilling and terrifying. He weighed the message, torn between viewing it as an opportunity and as a potential confrontation with those judgmental parts of his life that he had sought to escape. The looming question pulsed in the back of his mind like an incessant drum. Was he brave enough to take this leap into vulnerability? Alex found himself staring at the sketches again, the vibrant colors almost inviting him to step forward. Maybe it was time to confront more than just art. Would he continue to sidestep his passion, or could he summon the courage to present these facets of himself to his family? Night settled around him, and with it came a sense of urgency. The time had come to make a decision, but also to face more than he had bravely shared with Evelyn. The canvas awaiting him was no longer just an outlet. It was the very embodiment of his burgeoning self, and he had to decide if it would remain hidden or if it would finally see the light of day. Would he dare to reveal himself, not just to Evelyn or the shelter, but to his father and all that he represented? The next morning, a new sense of determination rippled through Alex's thoughts. His canvas, glimmering with the potential of self-expression, beckoned him to abandon his fears. As sunlight streamed into his room, it aligned with his newfound resolve today. He would confront not only his artistic aspirations, but also the expectations that loomed heavily over his existence. He had yet to respond to Evelyn, and he felt a surge of urgency to harness his thoughts. Picking up his phone, he drafted a message. "I'd love to be part of the gallery show," he typed, heart racing at the sheer commitment of it. He hesitated, thumb hovering over the send button. In a way, it felt like ripping off a bandage. The brief pain could yield immense relief. He pressed send, setting off a cascade of possibilities he was still too scared to fully fathom. Arriving at the shelter later that day, Alex felt the electricity in the air, a blend of creativity and belonging washed over him. He settled next to Evelyn once more, their conversations evolving into a deeper exchange of ideas. In that moment, he dared to show his latest sketches, vibrant and raw with emotion. Evelyn's eyes widened, and her genuine interest ignited something profound within him. Her admiration felt like a gentle whisper urging him forward, coaxing out the best parts of himself. "Alex, these are stunning," she said, her voice dripping with enthusiasm. "You have so much depth in your work. Have you thought about what you want to convey at the gallery?" The question hit him. The gallery wasn't just a showcase. It was an opportunity for him to narrate his story, to unveil layers of his identity he had kept buried. "I want to express the struggle between expectation and authenticity," he finally admitted. The words felt heavy on his tongue, but freed something deep inside him. He could feel the burden of his father's expectations begin to lift, replaced instead with a flicker of purpose. With a newfound commitment, he set about creating pieces for the show focused on the tension that had haunted him. He worked late into the night, each stroke of paint a release, every blending of color a step toward bravery. Soon, his doubts began to transform into a palpable energy that fueled his creativity. What had once felt like chaos now became a symphony of emotions etched upon canvas. As the days passed, however, shadows loomed again. Alex knew that his upcoming confrontation with his father would be the truest test of his commitment to authenticity. The thought of revealing his art to his father was daunting, made heavier by years of ignored conversations about the life Alex truly wanted. What if his father dismissed it all as fleeting fancy, like a child outgrowing a phase? Would he shatter the connection they had built on practical expectations? The night before the gallery show, dread crept in alongside determination. Conflicting thoughts buzzed in his mind like a swarm of bees. What if he stumbled over his words? What if the art, a mere reflection of his internal toil, didn't resonate with those who mattered most? The faintest whisper of doubt snaked through him, coaxing him to reconsider, but the memory of Evelyn's words settled in his mind. Embrace the chaos. Could this chaotic wound of fear culminate in something transformative? Perhaps it was precisely that chaotic struggle that could weave a thread between him and his father. He spent the night confronting not only his canvases, but the reality of the conversation that awaited him. The time for certainty was running short. He knew he had to summon every ounce of courage he could muster. With the dawn peeking timidly through the curtains, Alex stood before his room's full-length mirror. The reflection staring back held more significance than he had ever realized. It was time to show not just the world, but himself, exactly who he was becoming. What awaited him in that gallery, success or rejection, was only part of the journey. The real confrontation lay ahead with the man whose expectations had guided him for so long. Would he be ready to finally stand in his truth? He took a deep breath and whispered to himself, "I'm ready." But as he stepped out the door, a sudden thought clenched his stomach tight. Did he truly believe it? The gallery buzzed with anticipation, each wall a canvas not merely for paintings, but for the stories woven into the lives that surrounded them. As Alex stepped into the space, he felt the weight of countless eyes expectant, curious, and, to his mounting anxiety, perhaps even critical. The vibrant colors of his work beckoned, promising to unveil aspects of himself he had long buried. Yet at that moment, apprehension gripped him with icy fingers. Evelyn had already arrived, her radiant enthusiasm a beacon amid the storm of his overwhelming thoughts. She caught his eye and gestured him over, her expression a tapestry of encouragement. "There you are? I was hoping you'd get here early. You're not going to believe this, you've got people already admiring your pieces," she said gleefully. Her zeal was infectious, but just as quickly as it bubbled up, Alex felt a wave of self-doubt crashing down upon him. What if they don't understand? What if I've completely misjudged my work? His heart raced, and he could feel his breathing quicken. "Stop right there," Evelyn interrupted, sensing his turmoil. "This is your moment. You crafted these pieces with raw honesty. This show isn't just about public perception. It's about how you choose to express your reality. Take a deep breath. Just be present." Nodding, Alex closed his eyes for a brief moment, focusing on her words. Be present. He could feel the energy in the air, but it was tempered with his own mounting anxiety and resolve. It was a dichotomy he needed to embrace. As the evening unfolded, Alex watched guests mingling and discussing the work around them. The vibrant colors, symbolic of his internal struggle, drew them in, much like the light drawing moths. Each interaction peeled away layers of his fear. A soft-spoken art critic approached him, eyes shining with intrigue. "Your work is incredibly evocative. Tell me, what inspired the merging of such stark colors?" The critic inquired, his tone respectful and inviting. Alex's heart raced. He opened his mouth to explain but faltered, not wanting to diminish the integrity of his art with ambiguity. Drawing on Evelyn's advice, he started slow, the words rolling off his tongue more seamlessly than he anticipated. "It represents the clash between expectations and the authenticity we often hide behind. The struggle to show who I really am." As he spoke, he felt a rhythm build, the dialogue transformed into a dance of ideas, the critic's thoughtful nods fueling Alex's confidence. Behind the veil of his anxiety, he glimpsed a new identity forming, one where his voice mattered. With each conversation, he navigated through the nuances of vulnerability, steering closer to truths that felt both terrifying and liberating. However, the looming thought of his father invaded his mind. His gaze flickered toward the entrance, heart thudding. Where was he? The specter of disapproval loomed like a shadow, always within reach. Would his father, who had always prized practicality over passion, understand the man he was trying to become? The fear twisted in his stomach like a serpent coiling tightly. Evelyn's words echoed once more, urging him to embrace all parts of this experience. With newfound resolve, Alex stepped away from the crowd and found a quiet corner. He let the energy of the gallery wash over him. Here, he could confront the truth of his situation, a blend of fear and exhilaration. He fished out his phone, glancing at his unsent message to his father, a landmark of neglect turned urgent simplicity, an invitation to connect over something he held dear. Did he dare to send it now? As the ticking clock echoed through the whispers and laughter, Alex's heart raced. Would he finally embrace the authenticity he had fought so hard to claim? The seconds felt eternal, each one tugging him closer to a decision that could build or tear apart a bridge long neglected. With determination solidified, Alex hit send. What would greet him on the other side of this act of courage? As the message disappeared into the ether, a new wave of uncertainty washed over him, propelling him forward. There was no turning back now. As the crowd surged around him, he had taken the first step toward reclaiming not just his art, but his life. Yet, just as he felt that surge, something shifted. An unexpected figure emerged at the gallery entrance, a silhouette distinctly familiar. His breath hitched. Would this be the moment of clash or reconciliation? Would he finally face the man whose expectations defined him? Or would he grapple with the unresolved tension that plagued their relationship? The drama tightened around him as he drew closer to the threshold of his past and the promise of a transformative future. The figure at the entrance shifted slightly, silhouetted against the gallery's glowing lights. Alex's breath caught in his throat as his eyes adjusted to the dimness, locking onto the familiar outlines of his father, a man whose expectations had long loomed over him like an unyielding cloud. For a fleeting moment, time seemed to suspend as Alex processed the implications of his father's presence. The gallery, once vibrant with colors and voices, faded to a muted backdrop, and he felt his heart beat louder than the swells of conversation around him. This was more than a mere artistic showcase. It was a battlefield where he would confront the very fabric of his identity, the authentic self he had struggled so hard to express. His father's expression was unreadable, caught in the moment between curiosity and judgment. What did he see? A failed artist? A son who had finally stepped into his truth? Alex shifted his weight, anxiety bubbling beneath the surface. The fear of rejection crept back in, threatening to choke out all the pride he'd built throughout the evening. Evelyn's encouraging words echoed through his mind, and as he summoned her support, another realization settled heavily in his chest. This was the very moment he had been preparing for. The decision to reach out had taken strength, but could he carry that strength forward now? In this face-to-face confrontation, taking a calculated breath, Alex navigated through the small groups of art enthusiasts, each interaction bringing him closer to his father. Would this be a dialogue about expectations or an exploration of understanding? The uncertainty filled him with both trepidation and a flicker of excitement, igniting a determination he hadn't fully acknowledged before. That he approached the entrance where his father stood frozen, uncertainty etched into his features. "Dad," he said, voice steady yet vulnerable. "I didn't expect to see you here. You always expect the unexpected, don't you?" His father replied, an edge of sarcasm in his tone that twisted like a knife in Alex's gut. But Alex also noticed the flicker of curiosity lurking behind the resistant demeanor. 4 months of silence hung between them, and they both recognized the fracture that had formed through misaligned dreams and unspoken fears. Alex felt a swell of anxiety, but he pressed on. "I wanted you to see this. It means everything to me." His father's eyes darted around, taking in the kaleidoscope of colors, the lingering guests, the tangible passion that hung in the air. "Art. All this." Skepticism laced his query, which twisted his gut. "You think this is what you should be doing with your life?" At that moment, Alex stood on the precipice of familiar conflict, but found himself less willing to retreat. "I think this is who I need to be." His voice softened but grew firmer, claws of fear loosening their grip. "It's not just about making a living. It's about expressing myself. This is my truth." The tension shifted as his father regarded him more closely, nostrils flaring slightly, as if processing a shift in the atmosphere. It was a small victory, but it was one Alex clung to as he fought against the mounting pressure within. "I know that you want what's best for me," Alex continued, feeling a warmth radiate from his own sincerity. "I just wish you could see how art isn't a failure to achieve. It's a different path, one that turns my struggles into something real." Silence settled between them, thick as molasses. His father seemed to grapple with newfound realizations that threatened to crumble the walls he had built. Would he choose to engage in this moment of vulnerability, trade sarcasm for sincerity? In that charged silence, the world around them dwindled into a distant murmur, artists still intoning their praises, laughter echoing with fervor, yet it all felt muted against the burgeoning climax of their conversation. Then, from behind them, Alex felt an unmistakable surge of curiosity and unexpected applause. The critic he had spoken with earlier had echoed his words to nearby art enthusiasts, noting the depth of his pieces. Suddenly, recognition flickered in his father's eyes, a glimmer of understanding, perhaps even pride. As the applause rang like a bell tolling for change, Alex held his breath. Would this be the turning point he had yearned for, or merely another moment swept aside by the burdens of past expectations? The clock was ticking, and while Alex felt hope swell within him, uncertainty remained. Could he carve a new narrative from this confrontation, guiding his father toward acceptance? Or would the weight of disapproval drag him back into the shadows? As the applause crescendoed, Alex's heart raced, ready to embrace whatever moment lingered on the horizon. Would they unravel the threads of their strained relationship, or would the riptide of unresolved tension plunge them back into silence? The next move, it seemed, would determine the course of their futures. The applause faded gradually, yet the electric tension between Alex and his father remained palpable. It was a moment suspended in time, filled with unspoken words, lingering glances, and the weight of expectation. His father's gaze flickered away, scanning the vibrant works displayed, seeking understanding he had long resisted. Art can be subjective, his father finally said, skepticism lacing the remark as he crossed his arms, a physical barrier against the vulnerability that hung in the air. There was a slight tremor in his voice, an acknowledgement that Alex picked up on but could not bring himself to address directly. Instead, he pressed forward, determined to engage with this fragile opening. Art challenges us. It's supposed to make us confront uncomfortable truths, Alex countered, his voice steadier now, emboldened by his earlier resolve. It's given me a voice when I felt I didn't have one. Every brushstroke carries weight, not just color. He watched as his father's expression shifted, a flicker of intrigue softened the hardened lines of his face. Your mother used to say something similar, his father mused softly, almost wistfully. The acknowledgement of Alex's mother carried a dual weight. It was a connection that bridged their difference and a reminder of what had been lost in their familial dynamic. This was pivotal, not just as a casual remark, but as a glimpse into a shared memory that had shaped their lives. She believed art could heal, didn't she? Alex pressed, sensing the tender moment rise from the depths of nostalgia. I think she was right. It has healed me. His father sighed deeply, the sound of frustration layered with longing. But it doesn't pay the bills, Alex. It doesn't offer security. The grit in his voice couldn't disguise the concern any longer, layers of protective instinct surfacing as if to shield Alex from a perceived threat. In this moment, doubt crept back in, dampening the bright flicker of hope Alex had begun to feel. The familiar grip of fear and inadequacy tightened, but he quickly shoved it aside, choosing to confront this insecurity head-on. What if I don't want conventional security? What if this is my path? The words escaped before he could question their urgency, that a silence enveloped them once more, heavy and fraught with the weight of years and words unsaid. Alex realized now that this conversation wasn't solely about art. It encapsulated identities, dreams, and the rupture in their lives that both father and son were desperately trying to navigate. Do you really think you can make a living off these expressions? His father challenged, though there was less bite in his voice now, more genuine curiosity than condescension. I'm already trying, Alex replied, eager to share the steps he had taken, the connections he had made. I've got a few local galleries interested, and I'm even setting up some workshops. I want to create a community around art. For the first time, the corners of his father's mouth hinted at a curiously subdued smile. But it was gone as quickly as it came when reality dawned. A community doesn't pay your rent. The disappointing truth echoed louder in their exchanges, a stark reminder of the world outside their fragile bubble. Yet, Alex felt a surge of resolve course through him. This was more than just about faith in his artistic pursuits. It was a quest for his father's approval and acknowledgement that he was not throwing his life away. Suddenly, the applause reignited, drawing both of their attention back to the gallery. People were still engaged, immersed in the experience Alex had helped curate. He pointed, hoping to shift perception. Look at them, Dad. They're not just viewers, they are feeling something real. This is what I want to create, to inspire. In that moment, the vulnerability between them waned, replaced with tentative excitement. His father turned to face Alex fully, vulnerability slowly replacing condescension. You've thought deeply about this, he said, the sentence infused with cautious admiration. Because it matters to me and it matters to you, Alex said softly, his heart pounding in his chest, desperate for his father to lean in further, to embrace even the slightest hint of trust. They stood on the brink of understanding, and Alex dared to hope again. But an unsettling thought nagged at him. Was this newfound openness genuine, or simply a softening of old defenses? The answer felt just out of reach. As they stood there, silence filled with the echoes of their previous lives. Alex realized the stakes were higher than ever. Would his father's journey toward understanding culminate in acceptance? Or would they slip back into the enmity that had so long defined their relationship? Their next move could either dismantle the wall that separated them or reinforce their estrangement. Had they finally found a path toward connection, or was this fragile moment merely the calm before another storm? In the weeks that followed the gallery show, a profound transformation unfolded within Alex Carter. The gallery had been a battleground, a tribute not just to his artistic creations, but to the reclaiming of his identity. His father's guarded presence had cloaked him in uncertainty, yet the tentative connection sparked within that space began to solidify into a newfound understanding. As days blurred into a tapestry of exploration and courage, Alex diligently honed his craft, while remaining committed to which connections birthed meaning, the connections that stemmed from authenticity instead of obligation. One afternoon, ensconced in the warm glow of the sun-drenched studio he had created above the garage, Alex fell into a rhythm of color and composition. The vivid strokes of paint on canvas now marked not just personal strife, but also glimpses into the lives of those he encountered, the homeless families he had bonded with at the shelter, and the stories of resilience woven into each brushstroke. Art became a vessel he could fill with purpose. Through the cathartic act of creation, he felt unshackled from the expectations that once dominated his narrative. Simultaneously, the interaction with his father remained on his mind, a lingering question of what would come next in their relationship. Would his father finally accept this new evolution? Would there be a permanent truce between their conflicting worlds? Buoyed by the recent connection, Alex reached out again to his father, inviting him to the studio to see his art in progress. Would he dare embark on this venture of vulnerability? The day his father arrived was thick with apprehension, yet Alex felt resolve simmer within. As he led him through the cluttered but inviting studio, he could feel the tension radiating off his father. Each remark about the size of the canvases or the eclectic array of materials hung like a question mark in the air. "You've decorated quite the space for a hobby," his father remarked, a subtle hint of incredulity lacing his voice. "Art is not merely a hobby for me, Dad. It's a way to express my truth," Alex countered gently, watching as his father surveyed his work. The vivid paintings still bore the emotional weight of struggle, yet there emerged a sense of relief, showcasing how far he'd come in his journey. Slowly, his father began to engage, pointing to a piece that depicted the fractured relationship between hope and despair. "What inspired this?" he queried, the skepticism still lingering but now softened by curiosity. Alex felt the walls around them begin to crumble. "This represents the conflict I've fought my whole life. The pressures of legacy clash with who I truly am. Each color brings a feeling. Each stroke reveals a story." Deep down, Alex cherished the belief that his emotional honesty might finally resonate with his father. A moment of rare silence enveloped them, the air thin with possibility. Days turned into weeks, and throughout that time, Alex also immersed himself more deeply within the community he had shyly entered through acts of service. He organized art workshops at the shelter, where the participants expressed their stories visually, drawing laughter and tears alike. With each interaction, he absorbed wisdom from those around him, discovering his capacity to inspire and facilitate deeply meaningful connection that it wasn't long before whispers of Alex's art began reaching further. Local galleries took interest, offering him opportunities to showcase his work. The balance of creation and connection he had crafted blossomed into genuine success. His story became a beacon of hope for others whose aspirations had been suffocated by expectations. Meanwhile, his relationship with his father began to evolve. There were moments of discord, yes, but they were punctuated by a collective effort to understand one another. On one occasion, they discussed art at length over dinner, where Alex expressed that he felt an urgency to pursue his craft, a belief his father was beginning to grasp. With each painstaking conversation, he began to chart the waters between the life he was meant to lead and the one he chose for himself. Finally, on a summer evening, Alex received an email inviting him to participate in a regional artist showcase, a recognition that felt monumental. After sharing the news, his father looked on, a mix of pride and apprehension illuminating his features. "I'll be there," he said finally, the commitment ringing with sincerity. An exhilarating sensation coursed through Alex, the approval he craved, the recognition of his journey towards self-actualization, was blossoming in real time that as the day of the showcase arrived. A surge of emotion coursed through him. In the flurry of excitement and chaos, he spotted his father standing amidst a gathering crowd, mingling with friends and acquaintances, something he once viewed as anathema. Yet here, he looked content. As the judge approached, Alex felt his heart beating wildly. The culmination of his creativity and the years of healing converged within that exhibition space. When the announcement echoed through the hall, recognizing him as a finalist, Alex's heart soared not just for the victory, but for the acknowledgement of years of struggle and growth. In that moment, he glanced at his father, who appeared genuinely moved, a spark of recognition illuminating his features, perhaps sensing the weight of Alex's journey. The connection felt profound and justified. Each challenge had manifested into a source of healing. In accepting himself fully, Alex had inspired a ripple effect on his father's perspective. Could this be the point of reconciliation? A path uniquely carved, born not only from the struggle to escape expectations, but from the steady march toward an authentic presence. As the evening concluded, and amidst laughter and clinking glasses, Alex caught his father's eye. Without hesitation, he walked over, hoping to bridge this burgeoning connection once and for all. "Thanks for coming," he said sincerely, feeling the breadth of emotions he had been longing to express. "I really didn't know what I was missing, son," his father replied, a warmth blooming across his features, authentic and unguarded. "You were right. This is art, and it's part of who you are. And I admire that you fought for it." A sense of peace wrapped around both men, differing yet united in their aspiration for authenticity. Together, they stood in acknowledgement of continued growth, of vulnerability met with tenderness, and of connection forged from the desire to transcend the confines of expectation. In that moment, Alex released the weight of his past while embracing the potential of a bright future. He had achieved far beyond mere recognition. He had transformed relationships through authenticity, conquering internal and familial conflict. At that point, leaving behind an illustrious legacy suddenly felt less imperative than carving a life imbued with passion and meaningful connection. In doing so, he not only assured his own fulfillment, he opened the door for his father, too, to redefine success on his terms, solidifying a bond that had once become frayed. The man he once was, Alex had finally demonstrated that profound growth is not rooted in the shadows of expectation, but rather in the pursuit of authenticity and the multitude of connections formed through the struggle to express one's true self. This was beyond accomplishment. It was a celebration of the human spirit's power to transform turmoil into triumph, creativity molding contours of identity, thus defining the essence of life well lived. The circle was now complete, and with it, a new chapter began to blossom for both father and son. You need to subscribe now to witness more incredible journeys of personal transformation. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to help us reach more souls starved for connection. Comment below your reactions and theories about Alex's story. And don't forget to share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who are ready to embrace their own struggles and triumphs. We can't do this without you. Let us empower individuals together.